اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من قادح من البلاء أقلته وكم من عطال وقيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغنالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد عملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تسجيل عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعد أوامرك. فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شدي وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حوات من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارحها سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا كريم يا رب وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجري لوقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك. وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي. فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، بأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي، بأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته؟ فلئن صيرتني بالعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن نظري إلى كرامتك، أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك. فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتك وذاقت عن عذابها بمعصيتك، وحبس بين أطباقها وبجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك، أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك، أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوتا وترى مكانا، أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا، أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا، أم كيف تزشره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربا، أم كيف يرجو فضلك في رفقه منها فتتركه فيها. هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهدي، وقضيت به من إخلاد معاندي، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حكمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسرفته وكل جهل عملته، كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العظيمة جوانحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد ومن كادني فكيد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك واعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني عثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. May I request the gents to come on this side? It's an interactive session, so the ladies can come into the gents Namaz hall, and then inshallah we can start this evening's program, inshallah.
His father. And also sister Fatima.
Are Arsenal still winning?
Unfortunately. We need to say some surahs, huh?
Might turn into a fat majlis.
Someone book me.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. For the love of our seventh Imam Musa al-Kadhim, Let us begin with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa bihi nasta'een. Thumma as-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin. Amma ba'd. Awaited Savior of humanity, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, my respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight, as we celebrate the birth anniversary of our 7th Imam al-Kadhim, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, we are shifting the format of the program to a much more interactive style, and it allows us to have a collective form of learning. The idea is that we follow what is known as the KWL format of learning, and that is where we all participate in the learning experience and learning from one another. Normally in the monologue, it is me giving you my ideas, my experience. The reality is the collective knowledge and the collective wealth of understanding is so great, and when we draw that out from people, we all benefit from each other. But we also get to learn about what else others want to be able to learn about. And it may spark even more ideas in your own mind, hearing from one another, that you want to learn something about this. You may have heard of it before, you may never have heard of it before. But with this exchange of knowledge, we will grow together collectively. We also get to be able to shift the format of the majlis to honor Imam alayhi salam. So KWL, what does it stand for and how does it work? It's divided into 3 parts. The first part is for each and every one of us, all of us, to be able to say one thing that we know about our Imam alayhi salam. And so we've got our whiteboard here, and I'm going to ask my assistant to come up and write much more legibly than I could ever do so. But we will each mention one thing that we know about our 7th Imam, and hopefully by the end of it we will have so many different points noted down about the 7th Imam that in the span of a majlis we will probably learn even more from each other than we can just through one person's knowledge. We then state what would we like to know about the Imam, and it could be in any area, any element of his life, and again we'll get a list of things that allows us to be able to think collectively about what we wish we could learn about the Imam. At that point we will have short majlis inshallah, where I will try my best to be able to respond to one or as many of those questions that have been raised about what you would like to learn about the Imam's time. And then after the short majlis, we will again gather like this, and we will ask everyone to mention what they've learned about the Imam. Because it could be that you learn something new from the first part. When you mention what you know about the Imam, someone may, I never knew that. That's something new to me. And you might want to mention that. It might be an answer to the question that has been raised, that we want to know about X, and we've learnt about X. And that might be something that you mention. But the idea is that it could be that in a half an hour, 45-minute majlis, we could switch off. But at the end of the session, it may be that you've missed one thing and someone else says, I learned this. And you say, I missed that. That was really important. And that reinforces the learning process. Instead of it being passive, where it's just a monologue, the idea is for you to be able to learn in a more active manner. And hopefully that will allow us to be able to retain much more of our knowledge. And inshallah, it continues to evolve the format of the majlis in honor of the Imam, inshallah. So are there any questions on the format about KWL? K stands for what you know about the Imam, one thing. W stands for what you would like to learn about the Imam. And L stands for what you have learned about the Imam. Are there any questions on the format? Simple enough, inshallah? Okay. Can I ask Sumaya if you'll join us? And my handwriting is terrible. You wouldn't learn anything if it was me writing these particular answers. So we're going to start with the K. What you already know from the Imam alayhi salam. And I think if we go for one brother, one sister, I think that would be really useful. And to make it as simple as possible, we'll start at the wall and we'll go all the way around. Yes. And should we start on the wall as well? I think that would be fair. Yes. So we'll start with the wall and then we'll go all the way around, inshallah. And everybody has to say one thing. Now it may be that by the time we reach part way, someone will say, I don't know anything new. It's already been mentioned. If that's the case, that's the case. That's still one thing that you know about the Imam. Don't feel shy. Don't pass the buck and say, come back to me. Say one thing that you know about the Imam, even if it be just something so small, it is still beneficial to all of us, inshallah. So I don't know how many can see. Can you guys see? If you can't see, then feel free to move to a space whereby you can see. If you do want to come forward, if you can't see very well, feel free to be able to move into a position where you can, okay? For the love of our 7th Imam Musa al-Kadhim, let us have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, we'll try to put everything on one chart as best as is possible. Okay. Would you like to move forward just to give everyone more space? If you'd like, you can move forward. It allows us to give everyone space if there's more people that are coming, inshallah. Okay. One thing, and we'll try to be very quick, just one thing that you know about your 7th Imam. Bismillah Adnan. MashaAllah. Period of Imamat was 35 years.
He was buried in Baghdad. He was buried in Baghdad.
Ahsant. Imam was buried in Baghdad. No, Rasul, sorry, you can't skip out. Okay. Ahsant. He was born in the city of Medina. He died at the age of 55. He was born on the 7th of Safar, 128 after Hijrah. Ahsant, Ahsant. I thought that was going to come first. He's the 7th Imam. Ahsant.
It was one of nine brothers and 6 sisters.
He was one of 9 brothers and 6 sisters. Ahsant. He dies on the 25th of Rajab.
During his imamah, although the 6th Imam proclaimed his as an Imam, 2 of his brothers were pronounced as Imam. One of them was already dead, and the other one, Ismail, started off the Ismaili sect, and he was supported by the ruler of the time, I forget his name, because he could manipulate Ismail.
Ahsant. So, during the time of the 6th Imam, 2 other brothers were nominated to be the Imam. How do we word that in a short sentence? Say again? Okay, great. Fitna was started in the Imamate.
Different sects.
And different sects were started in the Imamate. Okay, excellent, excellent. Where have we reached?
He had the powers of healing.
He had powers of healing. Ahsant.
Imam Al-Kadhim is known as Al-Kadhim, meaning the one who suppresses his anger.
His title, Al-Kadhim, the one who suppresses his anger. Would you like to go?
He was killed by
One second. It's the sister just at the other side of the wall. Would you like to go next? No? Okay. Should we go at the very back? Say again?
Most of the time he was in prison.
Ahsant. Most of his life was spent in prison.
Was poisoned by Harun al-Rashid.
Poisoned by Harun al-Rashid. Where have we reached? Yes. His title is Baab-Ul-Hawa'ij.
One behind him.
When he died, his body was kept on a bridge where his companions found him on areas.
When he died, his body was left on a bridge and his companions found the body to bury him. So we can put about his burial. Ahsant. Beautiful. I'm so sorry, you'll have to speak louder. He died by poison. Ahsant. Thank you so much.
So it's up here.
Oh,
Poison.
Yeah, you want to?
It's already been mentioned. He was Babul Hawaii.
He was Baab-Ul-Hawa'ij. Ahsant. Jazakumullah khair. Auntie? If Auntie wants to mention? Either? Would you like to go? I think we have someone in the ladies' side. Would you like to mention? Is it?
There is a tasbih of Babul Hawaii. It's been read in every difficulty.
There is a tasbih for Baab-Ul-Hawa'ij, which is to be read in every difficulty. Anything else on that? Ahsant.
It's already mentioned, but there's one thing I know about his children, number of children. He had 37 children total.
Ahsant. He had 37 children. I think we have we gone through all the sisters? Is there anyone who wants to go again? Yes?
His mother was the
His mother? Can you say it?
Hamida Khatun.
Hamida Khatun, Ahsant. All done.
Born during the reign of the Abbasids and the Umayyads conflict.
Say again?
Born during the conflict between Umayyads.
Born during the conflict between Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas. Ahsant. Anyone from the sisters want to go again? Okay, I'm gonna go to, just because it goes in order, okay? Can you say it one more time, just a little bit louder for me? Brilliant. So in any state of anger, the Imam showed how you could calm down. Ahsant. Beautiful. Suppress his anger is good? Ahsant.
He died at 183 years after Hijrah.
He died in 183 after Hijrah? Ahsant.
He lives with his dad, Jaffer Ladak, about 20 years.
He lived with Imam Sadiq alayhi salam for 20 years.
His son, Imam, and your brother was helping him send messages whilst he was in prison.
Beautiful. His son Imam Rida alayhi salam helped him send messages out whilst he was in prison.
How many years did he live with his father?
20.
And this one was?
His son Imam Rida alayhi salam helped him to send messages out whilst he was in prison.
He became an Imam at the age of 20.
Ahsant. He became Imam at the age of 20.
So I just want to say 2 points. He continued the Jaffer University after the Imam Jaffer Sadiq.
Ahsant. He continued the madrasa of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam after.
And second, like I learned due to the hard time in the Harun, his closest man, they joined his government so they can preserve like whatever they learned from the Imam, and they continue to help the others because they were killing everyone, the preachers and the followers of the Imam. So we learned the ijtihad in the hard time you can change and you take decisions like the white collar politics, like we can some sort of stuff.
So some of the companions were hiding their faith and they entered into the government as a means to be able to help the imam. Is that what you wanted to say? Is there anyone from the sisters who hasn't said anything or wants to mention? Brother, would you like to say anything? Ahsant. I think that's a wonderful list. Majlis over. Right? Ahsant. I think that's actually quite comprehensive, isn't it? Actually quite a lot is known about our seventh imam. Sometimes people say small imam, big imam, we don't know. Actually, that's quite a good list, isn't it? Of things that we collectively know. So to...
He born in Medina.
Yes.
The small city called Al-Abwa. I don't know if you know that.
Al-Abwa.
Abwa, yes.
Ahsant. So in the area, in the mantaqa, in the area of Al-Abwa in Medina. Al-Abwa. Sorry, I can't. I'm so sorry.
I think in the same area, Khadija's buried there as well, is that right? Oh, yeah, Amina, sorry, yeah, Amina. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing very well.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? So, one thing that you know about the seventh Imam alayhi salam. Anything. But you can't repeat it.
That stops people coming late.
Yeah. Any one thing that you know about them, anything at all. It can be as simple as his title. Ahsant, Baab-Ul-Ilm. It's on there, but we can tick it. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So this is a beautiful experiment to show how much collectively we know about our seventh Imam. And I hope that already there has been some learning. Someone might say, oh, I didn't know that, or I'm interested to know a little bit more about that. So in honor of our seventh Imam, let us have a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Should we have a second round? What comes next? Okay, so we've done the K, what you know.
Could we go quickly through the list again?
Yes?
Because it's not legible from here.
It's not legible yet. Shall we try to read it out quickly? Yeah? Okay. Is there? Okay, so I'll try to read it out. Messages were transported by Imam Rida alayhi salam whilst he was in jail. The period of his imamat was 35 years. He was poisoned by Harun al-Rashid. He's buried in Baghdad. Most of his time was spent in the prisons. He was born in the city of Medina in the area of Al-Abwa. He lived with his father for 20 years and became the imam at the age of 20 years old. He died at the age of 55 years old on 25th of Rajab, 183 after Hijrah. One of the biggest issues of his imamat was the Shia splitting into different sects and the so-called appointments of different sons of the sixth Imam at that time. Born on the 7th of Safar, 128 after Hijrah. His mother was Lady Hamina Khatun. He is known as al-Kadhim, the one who suppresses his anger. He was born during the conflicts of Banu Abbas and Banu Umayyah. He has 9 brothers and 6 sisters and 37 children. Some of his companions hid their faith and were permitted to be able to join the government of the Imam as a means of entering into it. He was known for his powers of healing. His title is Baab-Ul-Hawa'ij. His body was left on a bridge in Baghdad, and eventually his companions took him from the bridge in order to bury him. And it is known that there is a tasbih to be recited when you have difficulty in the honor of the seventh Imam, whose assistance will come inshallah to be able to intercede for us. So that is the full list of things that we have. Come on. Oh, excellent. There's someone online?
He's saying he's also known as the protector.
Ahsant. He's also known as the protector. So for our seventh Imam, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Someone mentioned it. So from now we go to W. What would you like to learn about the seventh Imam? It may be that we don't get to answer all of this tonight. It may be something that we can look to later on in the month. We'll also have his Shahadat Majlis on the 25th of Rajab. So it may be that this gives us an opportunity to have preparation for the Majlis coming. But we'll do the same exercise, but this time we'll start in the opposite directions. Should we do that? So if we want, we'll start this way with the sisters and then this way with the brothers. Would that be okay? Yeah? Would you like to ask anything? What would you like to know about the Imam?
How many children did he have? Like, how many daughters and how many sons?
Lovely.
Something in his life that I can implement in my own life.
Something that we can implement from him in our own life.
I'm just curious, like if he has any, apart from the preacher and everything, like he has any some sort of the profession he used to do.
Any profession that he had in his life. Ahsant. Auntie on the back. Either of the two aunties at the back? No?
Like, how did the sect divide, like, after him?
How the sects divided after him. Kill. Some hadith from the Imam.
Any books that could have been translated that he had written in his life from Arabic or Persian or whatever in English that we can read?
Any books translated from the seventh Imam's time?
So hadith from Imam, books from
Beautiful. Thank you.
Any supplications?
I'll go around if you don't mind. Otherwise, I'll forget where we are. Is that all right? Brother at the back? See?
Why is he the Babul Hawaii?
Why is he
Not
Babul?
all the Imams. So why particularly he?
It's more about his childhood.
His childhood.
Just his childhood?
Yes.
Some more information on his tasbih.
More information on this tasbih. His time in prison.
How did he survive such hideous place that he stayed in for so long?
How did he survive in the prisons?
What can we do to implement if we do suffer with such things in our lives?
And how we can survive if that ever happens to us. Ahsant. Why was he imprisoned?
Why he's coming become Imam when he was the second child of Imam Jaffer.
Why was he Imam?
Why he become Imam? Because he is the second child of Jaffer Islam.
Why become the Imam after when he was the second child of the Imam? Ahsant.
About how can he treat his family?
About?
About his family.
About his family.
About his family? Or
About
his
the Imam's family. Is there anyone else? Anyone else from the sisters? Any message that can help us improve? Any hadith that can help us improve, implement into our life? Where did we reach? More about government intervention that was going on. Ahsant. Okay. Which one did you want? Government intervention. Okay. Can you put that as a second tick? Thank you.
The impact he created on the Shias while he was in prison. How was he able to help?
The impact that he had on the Shia whilst he was in prison. Anyone else wanted to go again from the sisters? You have one?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Impact on Shia.
Yep, whilst in prison. Okay. You can go.
Go or say?
No, is it like it's your turn?
So the 5th and the 6th Imam had a huge influx in terms of being able to spread Islam. So how was it that then it was so juxtaposed where the 7th Imam came into position?
Can you distill that into a statement that you can write down?
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Okay. So the 5th and 6th Imam has such opportunity to be able to teach.
So juxtaposition between the 5th, 6th versus the 7th.
Okay. So how was the 7th Imam able to teach similar to the 5th and 6th Imams? How old was his son, Imam Rida alayhi salam, when the 7th Imam died? Ahsant. This needs a whole series on the 7th Imam, huh?
What were the challenges that he was facing during his imamate? What were the people he was fighting against?
What were the challenges of the time that the Imam had to respond to?
Since Imam spent quite a bit of time in prison, the marriages that took place, were they in the prison or outside prison?
The marriages of the Imam's children?
Imam himself?
Or the marriage of the Imam himself? So the marriages of the Imam whilst he was in prison, were they in prison or outside of prison?
Right here. This one was double.
This one was double?
Yeah.
And why was he imprisoned? And like when he was in prison, his marriages?
Yes, survive imprisonment and marriages?
Yeah, and marriages. Sure?
Who was his closest friend?
Who was his closest companion? Why was his body left on the bridge? Was it?
His daughters get married, any daughter get married or not?
Did any of his...
few daughters, have they get married or not?
Sure. Any of his daughters gotten married?
And why?
And why? Ahsant. Sure. One online?
Has the Imam written any books like the 4th and the 6th? Were able to do it, or
So,
whilst he was in prison?
brilliant. You want to underline that? It's the second time that question has come. Has Imam written any books?
Mine is, what is his legacy?
What is the 7th Imam's legacy? Ahsant. Is there anything? So here as well, what can we implement and learn from the Imam? I think, yeah, underline that one. Brilliant. What do you think to these questions? Very good questions. Very comprehensive. Very thorough questions. So which ones do we have asked the most tonight? The ones that we've had repeated for tonight. What can I implement in my own life from the Imam? And what has he left me that I can improve on in my life? Has the seventh Imam written any books that have reached us? And what were the government interventions at the time of the seventh Imam? So maybe if I try to take these three tonight, because they've been asked twice, and then inshallah in the Shahadat Majlis, which comes on the 25th of Rajab, later on this month, then we will have more time to be able to look at the other ones. So for tonight, I'll just make sure that I try to answer these three questions. Is that okay with you guys? Yes? And inshallah we'll come back in a few minutes and answer what we have learned as our third element of KWL. For the love of our seventh Imam, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay. Put me on the spot, you lot. Yeah, Fatiha. They're giving me this list. Yeah, thank you. Okay. We have some requests for Surah Al-Fatiha. First is the auntie of Sister Fatim Patel. We also have the following marhumeen: Marhum Razia Rafiq, Zainabai Dawji, Muhammad Dawji, Muhammad Patel, and the father of the marhum father of Maulana Qalbi Abbas from India. For all of them and for all of our marhumeen, if we can begin with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahman. You can see okay? Sure. If everyone can open their Qur'ans. Two verses that we'll look at tonight, inshallah. The first one is chapter number 3, Surah Al-Imran, verse 133. And the second is Surah Al-Hadid, which is chapter number 57, verse number 21. Chapter number 57, verse number 21. For the love of our seventh Imam, let us have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا الممجد بشير المصدق المصطفى الأمجد محمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض أعدت للذين آمنوا بالله ورسله ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد Awaited Savior of humanity, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, my respected teachers, elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our occasion is to celebrate the birth anniversary of our 7th Imam Musa al-Kadhim, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us His ziyarah fi dunya wal akhirah, and to accept our hajat bihaqqi Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, and that we are able to learn something tonight from the life of our blessed Imam. You have set a wonderful challenge to be able to reflect together on maybe 3 points tonight. Some things that we can learn from and improve on in our life from our 7th Imam alayhi salam. The question as to whether he has written any books, and thirdly, the issues of government intervention at the time of the 7th Imam alayhi salam. The 7th Imam alayhi salam had 4 of Abbasid Khulafa during his lifetime. He had Mansur, after him he had Mahdi, after him Caliph Hadi, and then lastly Caliph Harun al-Rashid. These 4 of the Abbasid Khulafa. And Mansur was particularly evil in terms of the way in which he treated the Shia. And it later on shifted when Harun was a little bit more savvy and a little bit more intelligent in the way in which he tried to deal with the 7th Imam alayhi salam. If you want to ask this question about the government interventions at the time, it is well worth remembering that the Abbasid Khulafa, they were partially acting in response to the overthrow of the Umayyad government. The Ummah at large had become so fatigued and disgusted with Banu Umayyah and the way in which they were treating the Shia, that large parts of the Ummah wanted to overthrow Banu Umayyah. Banu Abbas had risen their flag that they would support the sons of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, but then when opportunity arose, they decided to steal Khilafat for themselves, and this is why the Abbasids took over instead of rightfully handing back Khilafat to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Before we can answer the types of government interventions at the time, we need to be able to just go back to Banu Umayyah and some of the things that they were doing, because as we stated, Banu Abbas were acting in response to Banu Umayyah. If we know some of the things that Banu Umayyah did and why they were overthrown, it becomes easier for us to understand some of the government interventions that were done by the Abbasid government upon the 7th Imam alayhi salam in particular. So what were some of the things? Banu Umayyah, they were well known for a series of brutalizing attacks. Amongst them, for example, was the attack on the city of Medina and Mecca, in which they ransacked these 2 cities, which was done at the time of Yazid bin Muawiyah. May Allah's curse forever fall upon him. After this, Banu Umayyah continued their oppression in such a way that not only did they target those people from Medina, they even went further and targeted the Persians as well. There are certain statements from Umayyad caliphs where, for example, they would state that the Persians, the Muslims, that this area has become so filled with the Muslims, we worry that they're going to overthrow us. And so they would threaten to kill the Persian Muslims. And actually one of the caliphs threatens that not only will I kill the Persians en masse, I actually will use this and make way for grand markets and spaces for markets and trade areas to be in place of the Persians that I kill. So Banu Umayyah were known for this, but it went further. Banu Umayyah actually started to turn the screw on non-Muslims as well, which were previously considered to be protected under the banner of Islam. As you know, there are a group of people called the Dhimmis, those people who would pay a tax, and as a result of paying the jizya tax, Islam offered them protections. During Banu Umayyah, this actually changed, and they started for the first time in the history of Islam to tax Christians and even monks in addition to the jizya tax. Why is this important? Because what you can see is that the level of oppression no longer just focused on Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, it was spread across the ummah. When you oppress every single part of the ummah, what do you think is going to happen? They're all going to rise up against you. They're all going to want to overthrow you. And this was the downfall of Banu Umayyah, that they actually tried to oppress every single group, and eventually collectively those groups stood up against Banu Umayyah and made their situation untenable. If you understand this, Banu Abbas enter into the fray. Mansur was particularly evil, and he continued one particular practice of Banu Umayyah, which was the oppressive restriction idea of Banu Umayyah, and to try to confiscate things from as many people as possible, and he tried to rule with an iron fist. After him, the Khulafa had a much more softer approach. In particular, Al-Mahdi Al-Abbasi, and in particular Harun al-Rashid, these two decided to be able to offer back to the seventh Imam alayhi salam a little bit of what had been stolen from him, from our seventh Imam Musa al-Kadhim salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. So I'll read to you some of what I prepared, and I prepared a little bit in different areas depending on what was asked. So I'm going to read to you something that I prepared, which is in response to the government interventions of the time. The historians have narrated that Osama bin Zayd was appointed by Yazid bin Abdul Malik to collect land taxes. And for the first time, he, Caliph Yazid bin Abdul Malik of Banu Umayyah, attacked the Dhimmis and exhausted them, attacked the non-Muslims that were supposed to be protected by the Ummah and exhausted them. He took their properties, and not only took their properties, he branded them on the hand, identifying them in this particular way. It continues, and it says that Abdul Aziz bin Marwan was the first to make a tax upon the monks as well. Al-Mansur ordered the members of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the sons of Imam Ali alayhi salam, to be arrested and thrown into prisons. Now what's interesting is, according to the narration, when Al-Mansur threw the Shia into the prisons, he threw them into the prisons of the city of Yathrib, Medina al-Munawwara. They languished in those prisons for 3 years in the most harshest of ways, And in the year 142 after Hijrah, it became such a boiling point in the city of Medina that so many of the children of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the grandsons of Imam Ali alayhi salam, had been left in dungeons, that even his advisors told him that it is becoming too much for people to bear now. You need to be able to do something. If you want to know the atrocities of Al-Mansur, this kind of summarizes what he was like. If you're hearing from your advisors that it's too much, normally what you would do is, you would listen, pay heed, and take the Shia outside of the prisons. Boris was given that advice last week, right? Apologize. And you can see when someone is having so much ego, even then they won't change their behaviors. Al-Mansur was like this. You know what Al-Mansur did in the year 142 after Hijrah? He went to Hajj, and on his way back from Mecca, he stopped off in Medina, and he got the governors of Medina to take the Shia who were in the prisons out of the prisons and parade them in front of him in their shackles. And did this in the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. This is the sons of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam being paraded inside Masjid al-Nabawi. And the hadith says that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was made to watch this event of his family members being paraded in front of him. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, as a way of demonstration, as a way of grief, took his abba and threw it onto the ground whilst weeping. This was his way of expressing how much grief he had. This is what Al-Mansur was like at the time of the 7th Imam alayhi salam. When all of these things were being confiscated, it wasn't just the ordinary confiscation. When the caliphs used to put Shia in prison, at the same time they put them in prison, they would confiscate their belongings. So Al-Mansur had built up a lot of what he had from the Shia at that time. When it became too much, Caliph Al-Mahdi Al-Abbasi decided a different tactic. And he decided to offer some of these things back to Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam and back to the Shia as a way of sort of penance, or as a way to say, look, I'm not as bad, we are not as bad as what Al-Mansur was like. It got to the point where Harun al-Rashid called our 7th Imam alayhi salam and offered him fadak back. Now before I tell you the rest of this story, I want you to be able to read the 2 ayat that I want to mention to give you some context to the reply of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, and to understand those interventions that were taking place. Banu Abbas, they wanted to seem like they were better than Banu Umayyah. So if Al-Mansur has been stealing so much from the Shia, what do you think they needed to do to be able to pacify the Ummah? That we are really with the Shia, that we are one in the same. To offer back all the things that they had stolen. If you are the Shia, as much as it is important for you personally to have what has been stolen from you to be returned, what is the most important thing that you want returned back? Fadak. More important than my own belongings is that belonging which belongs to Lady Fatima az-Zahra salawatullah wa salamuhu alayha. So in order to pacify the Shia at the time and the wider Ummah, that this was supposed to be a legitimate government supporting the Shia after so much devastation, Harun al-Rashid offers back fadak to Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. And before I tell you the rest of the story, have a look at these 2 verses. The first one was Surah Al-Imran, verse 133. I'll just give everyone a second to be able to find the ayah. Everybody's there, inshallah? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Hasten, rush towards the forgiveness of your Lord. What will you gain out of this forgiveness from your Lord? وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. What will you gain? Paradise. The size of it, the width of it, the extensiveness of it is the size of the heavens and the earth. Subhanallah. You want to know how big your Jannah is? How big are the heavens and the earth? It's incalculable, isn't it? The heavens, the entire universe is continuing to expand. It's not possible for us to understand the size of it. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says, the size of the Jannah that is available for you is the size of the heavens and the earth. That's what's available to you. And what does Allah precede it with? Istighfar. Just do istighfar. Just seek forgiveness for the things that you've done wrong. As an outcome, Allah will reward you with paradise, the size of the universe. Who is it prepared for? أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is kind of a shart. It's kind of a condition. Because why? Only the muttaqeen will humble themselves in order to be able to do istighfar with Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Turn to the other ayah. Surah Al-Hadid, chapter number 57, verse number 21. Jazakumullah khair. Almost identical ayah. I'll just wait for everyone to make sure that they have the ayah. Everyone is there now, inshallah? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sabiqu ila maghfiratin. So the previous verse says, Sari'u. This verse says, Sabiqu. Sabiqu is like, not just hastening, but it's a vying with each other. Like try to outdo one another. Try to become first. Sabiqu ila maghfiratin min rabbikum. Vie with each other positively for the forgiveness from your Lord. What will you get? وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا كَعَرْضِ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The Jannah, the garden of which the extensiveness is the width of the heaven and the earth. This time it says sama. أُعِدَّتْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. It's prepared for those people who believe in Allah and His messengers. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. This is from the grace of Allah. He gives it to whomsoever He pleases. وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ. Why? Because Allah is the ultimate mighty Lord of all grace. So, I just want you to focus for a second on this idea of the size of paradise that's available to you. We, me and you, me especially, we squabble over the tiniest things in this earth. And when we squabble, we try to gain just a little bit of an edge, maybe to be able to get something slightly bigger. Slightly bigger car, slightly bigger house, slightly bigger bank account. And we're arguing over these things which are just, in the realest sense, it's so minor, isn't it? Compare it to what Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is offering you. I'm offering you paradise, the width of which is the heavens and the earth. You really want to steal just to get a little bit ahead in your bank account? You really want to be able to argue over, having to have an engine that's, from a 2-liter engine to a 3-liter engine? Is this what we're arguing over in dunya? Is this what we're selling ourselves for in dunya? Allah is saying the entire universe is going to be in the palm of your hand when you die. All I'm asking for is istighfar from you. All I'm asking for you is become muttaqi. U'iddat lil muttaqin. Okay. Having understood these ayat, Harun al-Rashid calls our 7th Imam alayhi salam and he offers him fadak back. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam responds with the following line. I'll only take it if you give me the entirety of fadak back. I'll only take it if you give me the entirety of fadak back. He actually says, I want the entirety of the hudud back, the whole boundary of fadak back. So what do you think he says? Harun responds, because he's under pressure now. He has to be able to be seen as if he's working to give back. These are the interventions of the Banu Abbasid government to look like they are not the Banu Umayyah. He says, tell me, what are the boundaries of fadak? Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam responds and says, the eastern boundary of fadak is Central Asia. The western boundary of fadak is North Africa. The northern boundary of fadak reaches the Roman Empire, and the southern boundary reaches to the very tips of Yemen. That is the entirety of fadak that you would have to give back to me. Harun al-Rashid is confused. At the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was only how much? It was a very large piece of land. But I didn't think it went all the way to Africa, or it went all the way to Yemen, or they went all the way to Rome. How is it that you're saying this? Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam responds by saying, you've not understood. What you've taken from us is actually khilafat. When fadak was snatched, that's what it represents. They snatched from Lady Fatima not just fadak, but khilafat. For you to return back fadak to me, that is the entirety of the ummah itself that you have to return back to me. Imam al-Kadhim salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Of course, Harun al-Rashid would not do it. He would not be able to give it back up. The point I'd be able to make here is, if Harun had given it up, what would he have got in response? A Jannah that is the size of the heavens itself. Subhanallah. Just think about that. If you had offered it to him, or if you offer it to me and you, in theory, what should we be accepting? Jannah. Jannah. What difference does it make to me and you? What difference does it make to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu? Whether it's the ummah, the width of the ummah, or it's 1 penny that we're stealing from someone. What difference does it make? What difference does it make to me? Because in reality, if I realize that it's all the same in the hands of Allah, it really doesn't make a difference to Him, does it? Is it different to Allah if I take 1 penny or I take the ummah? With Allah it is the same. It makes no difference to Him. Tabarakalladhi biyadihil mulk wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Blessed in He in whose hands the entire dominion is. What is Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam teaching us here in this particular interaction with Harun al-Rashid? He's telling us the reality of what we do within our own lives compared to what is available to us. When we squabble, when we fight over dunya, when we are oppressing people for dunya, when we are snatching whatever size it is, whether it's 1 penny or whether it is the entirety of the ummah at large in all of its geography, with Allah it makes no difference. It is the same. And the reality is, what I'm exchanging is I'm taking that 1 penny, or I'm oppressing one person for one thing, but what I'm losing out on in reality is the exchange of the entirety of the heavens and the earth and the expanse of it. This is something from our 7th Imam al-Kadhim salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. What books has he written, and what can we implement from his life in order to improve on ourselves? I am unaware of any of the books of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam reaching us. However, what we do have is what is known as the Usul Arba'a Mi'a. These are 400 books in which our earliest ulama relied upon in order to be able to compile the books of ahadith that have reached us. So those great usul, those great books of ahadith that have reached us, those ulama took them either directly from companions or from imam or from books that had reached them, and those earliest books themselves, many of them were checked by the A'imma alayhim salam. Companions used to compile books of ahadith and then present them in their hundreds, sometimes in their thousands, to the imam to verify. And the imam would verify and say, that's not from us, that's from us. That's not from us, that's from us. Those books are generally known as the Usul Arba'a Mi'ah, 400 original sources that were checked by the A'imma alayhim salam, and from there some of our ahadith have been taken and compiled into the texts that have reached us. It doesn't mean that our earliest books don't have forgeries, they do, but we can say that the A'imma alayhim salam in some circumstances checked the work of their companions before those were circulated. I hope that briefly answers some of the questions on whether we have any books directly from our 7th Imam. What can we implement from the life of our 7th Imam Musa al-Kadhim, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh? I'll mention to you one or two ahadith that I feel might be useful to you. And if you want to write them down, if you want to be able to memorize them, it will be of blessings for us to honor our 7th Imam. First hadith, Imam alayhi salam says the following: when two things come your way and you don't know which one is good for you or bad for you, correct or incorrect, how do you decipher which one is better for you and which one is worse for you to choose? Imam says, when two things come your way and you don't know which one is good or bad for you, look into which one is closer to your desires and then oppose that one. For most of good is found in opposing your desires. He didn't say all good, because sometimes what you will choose is good. He said most good. When two things come your way and you don't know which one is good or bad for you, look into it and identify which one is based on your personal desires, your personal whims, your personal satisfactions, your personal ego. Then oppose that one. Don't take that direction. Choose the other one. Why? For most of good is found in opposing your own desires. Something we can think about and implement. Next hadith from our 7th Imam al-Kadhim, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Rajab is the name of a river in paradise that is whiter than milk and sweeter than honey. If a person fasts even a single day in the month of Rajab, Allah Almighty will allow him to drink from that river. We're in the month of Rajab, one fast. Just lillahi azza wa jal, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of this reward. Last hadith from our 7th Imam al-Kadhim, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Verily, a seed grows in soft ground, and it does not grow on stone. Seeds grow in soft ground, but they do not grow on stone. In the same way, hikmah, wisdom, thrives in the heart of a soft, humble individual and does not grow in the proud heart. Wisdom grows in the heart of a soft, humble individual and does not grow on the heart of a proud or haughty person. because Allah has made humility the instrument of the intellect. 3 ahadith that hopefully we can use to be able to implement and improve our life. What I hope to be able to take away from the Imam's life from tonight is the availability of the width of Jannah. And I can imagine myself in my own life at 100 times in my life where I have an opportunity to take something that is not mine. And the reality is that if I can realize what I am losing out on, the potential of what I'm losing out on, the more I wish to be able to gobble up dunya and potentially take something from someone that I shouldn't be, what I'm losing in exchange for this tiny little trinket is actually the width of the heavens and the earth, the width of the universe itself. That is the Jannah u'iddat lil muttaqeen, that has been prepared for the muttaqeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq to be able to follow in the path of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the opportunity to be able to learn from the Imam tonight. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ziyarah of our 7th Imam fi dunya wal akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place the illumination of our 7th Imam into the graves of all of our marhumeen tonight. Let us conclude with 3 loud salawat in honor of our 7th Imam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah. The last part is for us to be able to mention if we have learnt anything. And so I leave it to you if you want to be able to put your hand up and mention if you have learnt one thing, and that will allow us to be able to reiterate some of the learning points that have occurred tonight, inshallah. Bismillah.
Imam lived through the period of 4 Abbasid caliphates.
Ahsant. Imam lived through 4 Abbasid Khulafa. Someone from the sisters? We learned that if we fast one day in the month of Rajab, we will be able to drink from a special river in heaven. Insha'Allah.
I think the importance of istighfar.
The importance of istighfar. Yeah. Seems to be more grander than just what we might imagine, huh? Yeah. The importance of istighfar.
I think it's with Ramzan coming, and during the nights of Amal, when we do istighfar 1,000 times or 100 times, or sometimes when you fasted all day, then you recite 100 rakats of namaz. Perhaps is it quantity or the quality? What actually comes out?
The quantity versus quality of that istighfar. Ahsant. The importance of humility, having a humble heart.
The challenges he faced as an imam.
The challenges that the Imam faced in his life.
I want to add on what he said. Due to the challenges and atrocities in his time, why was he called al-Kadhim? Because he saw so many atrocities and challenges.
The Imam was called al-Kadhim because of those tragedies that he was able to bear and swallow.
The hadith, always opposed to whatever you desire.
Learn the hadith to oppose whatever is your desire, for in most cases of good it is opposing your desires. There goes heavenly desserts tonight. Huh? Alhamdulillah. Taking an active role in the majlis. Brilliant. I was going to ask at the end if we liked this format. Ahsant, thank you. Anyone else want to mention something that they've learnt?
Wisdom thrives in the heart of a soft, humble individual.
Wisdom thrives in the heart of a soft, humble individual. Ahsant.
The important thing I learned is that if you commit anything evil, you're exchanging for this world, you're exchanging it for heaven, for the extensiveness of heaven. So we should think before doing anything wrong.
When we do an evil, we are literally exchanging that evil for the width of the universe available to us in heaven. We are exchanging that one evil potentially for Jannah, which is the width of the universe. Sorry, say again? The importance of taking good political positions. Ahsant. Anyone from the sisters? Okay. So I think that this was a very useful exercise, an opportunity to be able to engage and actively participate in the program, and to stay awake, yes, for all of us. So maybe if we could just see whether we like this format again in the future. Doesn't have to be for every program, but I think on certain Imam's occasions where the opportunity avails us, we could try to find different formats of learning. So if you feel that this is a positive format, maybe you can recite a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahsant, jazakumullah khair. Okay. Ziyarah? Okay, inshallah, ziyarah warith, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا إمام حسن المجتبى جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتون. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة حضرة علي أكبر عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. زيارة فضي الشهداء. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي، طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. زيارة حضرة عباس عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن السيد الوصين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المؤاسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استخلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان، سيدي الأمان من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. سيدي متى ترانا ونراك عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه وظهور الأمر. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل
That's it.